Good evening, everyone. I'm Whitney, standing in for Deirdre, who's not here tonight, and Sarah Langlois is excused for the night, cannot make it, and I think we're just waiting for our colleague Daniel. Do you want to do the approval of minutes? Minutes are in your packets, everybody. If you haven't looked at them already, please do so.
Hey, Dan.
If everyone has looked through them, we can get a motion to approve the minutes from the November meeting.
You had it, then.
Oh, I had one edit, yes. Just in the special projects committee indicates that Tom gave a bunch of updates and that he also gave an update that I gave. So just edit it pertaining to the needs assessment project. So that was something that I had shared. That's okay.
We'll make a motion to approve the minutes as amended.
I second. All in favor?
Aye. Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? The motion passes and the minutes are approved. Thank you. So we jumped into regular business because we were waiting for Daniel. But let's go to new business, recognition of the Dimeo family for the library float. Tom?
Thank you. As you folks know, the New Rochelle Thanksgiving Day Parade is a longstanding, terrific tradition here in our city. And for many, many years, the library was not able to participate in a meaningful way. But thanks to our foundation, as led by Chris Sellen, and our friends led by Amy Teets and the partnership, we began participation over 3 years ago. And it was focused on the creation of a float that had a literary theme. And the person, the family who really made this all happen is Nick Dimeo, his wife Cynthia, their 3 children, and their many, many, many friends. And year in, year out, after it was constructed, the maintenance of it, the putting it together and sort of taking it apart has really fallen upon the shoulders of this family and their friends. And I thought it was important, as did Chris Sellen, our foundation president, to publicly thank the Dimeos and their family and friends for their terrific efforts. Every year, I think we have arguably the best float in the parade. And it's a float that's very appropriate. It's tied to love of reading for our children, because really, isn't that what we're about? And it's thanks to the hard work of the Dimeos. So I would ask the board to make a motion thanking the Dimeo family, their friends, for their wonderful efforts on behalf of the library and the city of New Rochelle and its residents.
That's great, and I will just add that my family rode on the float this year, and not only does it convey a love of reading and libraries, but it also speaks to our heritage, because with Norman Rockwell, the Land of Enchantment in the back, this very photogenic float, and my little daughter, this is just her personality, basically read a book through the entire parade. She's an introvert. Just read a book, and I was like, this isn't staged, people. this is my actual reader, daughter. Yeah, she's a big reader. So I would love to make a motion on behalf of the library board of trustees and the staff that we are extremely grateful and want to thank the Dimeo family for the wonderful contribution to the parade vis-a-vis the library float. Can we get a second?
I will second it.
Daniel, second. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? The motion passes. That we are grateful.
Thank you. Thank you.
Next up, we are joined tonight by Terry Kirshner from WLS. Would you like to come and speak? I don't know if there's an agenda or if we had questions specifically. No, you're just going to come and talk with us. Do you want to sit down? There's a chair right there.
Okay.
Yadira.
You
Yep.
can sit in the corner.
Yeah, you can sit. Great. Welcome.
Thank you. So, well, first, I just want to acknowledge that really do appreciate your patience over the past few months, because I know this has been incredibly difficult. For those in the audience, there has been system-wide some challenges with technology. We have hit one of those points where, you sort of hit the wall and now you got to move on. I think the good part is we're ready to move on. We've hit the wall enough times. We pretty much have some strategies in place now for a lot of different reasons. It's taken us a while to get there, but I think we have sort of rearranged some of our staffing. We have invested, the board, and Francis is part of the solution, is that the WS board has actually invested, I would say we have close to $250,000 that will be going into technology infrastructure over the next 6 months. I think that will resolve a lot of these issues. Clearly things like the long sign-ins, the blackout screens, some of the challenges with Evergreen itself, which is the online catalog. A lot of those are systemic. So it's really about the network itself is part of that. But I think part of the challenge that we faced, and really you faced as the frontline organization, is that sometimes the exact cause wasn't always clear. It's easy to guess what it is, but it's not always easy to pinpoint, largely because there's been inconsistencies throughout each of the libraries. Some libraries are affected, some are not. The settings are the same, why is there a difference? Some of those types of issues. So one of the things we have going forward is, well, first off, we have a new service provider for our overall network, which I think will help tremendously. One of the things that's happened over the years, and we, for better or worse, try to be very careful with your funds, and you start to sort of grow and piece something together. I believe with our network itself, we did probably that maybe 1 or 2 more years than we should have. And now this is a chance to sort of have a clean slate and really have a network that is cohesive and all one. It hasn't sort of morphed over time. So that will really come into place by the end of January. Along with that is a real look at what are the various equipment networks that connect the network to the infrastructure within the library. So as we update the network, clearly that will need to be updated as well. So we've been doing an inventory, almost finished, we'll finish probably this week, to get a better sense of what are the devices that are available at every library, and then what needs to be purchased to basically make sure that everyone is at the highest level that's available today, which means it'll be outdated next month, but at least for today, it's the latest and greatest. With that also, we have 3 different actions that are going to happen in January that I think are quite relevant. One is there's a firm called Nutanix, which will be coming in, and they will specifically be looking at the slow logins and the blackout periods that are occurring. So that's really their focus. We have another group called VMware. They're really going to look at the VDI, because part of it is VDI the problem, or is VDI sort of the scapegoat for the problem? We have to understand that before we decide whether to keep it or pull it. And then with that, there's also an operations services audit that will begin in January. And one of the nice things about this audit is that it is a little bit broader in scope. So it's going to look at a lot of the relationship issues between member libraries and the IT staff at WLS. So this will give us a chance to look at customer service, at skill sets, but also a general sense of some of the network relationships that are existing. So it's not a deep dive, but it's a broader look at, if VDI stays, then this would be an ideal way to have it set up. If VDI goes, these would be the directions that you want to go so you can transition off. One of the things we want to be very careful about is to make sure that we have network security. let's face it, there are more and more chances of ransomware, malware, all these types of issues happening. It's only going to get worse, especially with 2020 between the census and the election and other factors. So one of the things we have to be careful of is that we don't jump into some quick solutions where, yes, you might have speed, but now you've lost some of your security. So we just want to make sure that as we transition, that we really make sure patron privacy is, at top notch, but also that staff privacy as well, because so many systems are interrelated. So I know it's kind of a overview, kind of a high view, but I'm anticipating that you will definitely see results sooner rather than later. It's been a while. But once the operations services result or audit is finished, we'll also be working with the Directors Association. So I talked with the incoming president, and part of her goal is to really use this as an opportunity to also step back and look at the Directors Association and their role in terms of how can that be a more proactive, engaged entity in terms of working with WLS, especially the IT department, in terms of the security, the technology, and all those factors. Because one of the challenges, quite honestly, has been that communication's been very spotty. So part of that solution is how do we make sure that staff at all levels, not just directors, but everyone sort of knows where we stand with all these different issues as we move forward. So it's a lot, and I think it'll take us a while to get there, but I do think we're on the right track. I think having an outside perspective come in and just say, this is what it is. And part of the operations services audit will be an opportunity for member libraries to be deeply engaged in the conversation about what works, what doesn't work, and really, help make a brighter future going forward. So I'm sure there's other questions, but go for it.
Thank you. Thanks for that overview. I have a bunch of questions. I don't know if others do. We can kind of queue up. Okay. Do you want to go first?
Yeah, sure.
Okay.
So you're 6 months in, if that, right? Is that what you said?
Since
Was that
March, right?
For March.
Yeah.
Why
October, November, December, 9 months in.
9 months in? So in looking at everything that's happening now, why was there not, I don't know the process in which Evergreen or VDI was selected, or I don't know if RFPs were put out, but was there a technical, I guess, analysis or overview to say, hey, we at WLS and all our partnership libraries are ready on a technology side, on everything else, to really take on the VDI network as well as the cloud-based Evergreen, rather than just taking it and saying, let's throw it out there, and then we're getting all these issues. And so was there a beforehand committee, or was it a review, or,
So yes, there was a committee. The Directors Association had a committee that looked at different ILS vendors or online catalog vendors. The two that were sort of the lead was Cersei Dynix, which was the original, and Evergreen. The committee itself made a recommendation for Evergreen. We worked with a third-party company called Equinox, which is the company that really does the development for Evergreen. They understood that they were going to be using VDI for the first time working with us. There were some initial tests. It seemed fine in the tests. Clearly it's a little bit different that we're experiencing now. But I think one of the questions for us, quite honestly, is there have been changes in the Chrome browser's development along the way. So part of what we believe is some of the slowdown is actually related to Chrome, in the sense that Evergreen caches user profiles in the cache of Chrome, and we're not able to separate just the user profile portion from all the other activities that are happening when someone logs into Chrome. So the next time they log into their Evergreen setting, it seems to be pulling all of the past activities with it. So one of the challenges we have for VMware is, can they help us figure out how to parse out just the Evergreen portion so that everything else can get deleted, so the next time a person will log in, it'll be a faster login.
I don't want to get too deep into
Yeah.
the weeds here. My follow-up question to that isn't Chrome a ubiquitously used platform? And then you already said that some libraries have issues and others don't. So if everyone isn't using Chrome, what are they using? And if they are, why do we have our problem and others don't?
Yeah, well, and once again, I'm not the complete technical person, but it appears that part of it is related to how people are using Chrome, and we're still figuring this out. But I think there may be other factors. I mean, it's probably not just Chrome, but I think that's the big one. So it seems to be, and this is sort of something we're learning as we continue to investigate, that the longer a person is connected, that the deeper the cache is, and that's part of the delay. So it may be in some libraries, people are logged in for shorter periods of time. It just may be that they're on and off the desk, and then they do something else, and they come back. Those individuals seem to be having shorter login times, whereas people who stay on a little bit longer. And it's not consistent, and that's part of the problem. So it's definitely something we have to look at. I don't have the full answers by any means, but it is part of what we're looking at. And I think part of the question for us is, if we can't figure it out, then what's the alternative?
Right. I mean, is there a way to like revert back to the old system? Is it saved anywhere? Is it something that's possible?
So you won't be able to revert back. And quite honestly, even the old system is going to be, which was Cersei Dynix, is going to be going to a web version. So
potentially do.
part of it is,
So I totally get this whole web version. That's a lot of companies, not only libraries, but it's all cloud-based and data and so forth. But I've myself and another trustee met with several of the New Rochelle Public Library staff, many of the directors and direct service staff. And I know you mentioned Evergreen. That has been an issue, but it hasn't actually been the principal issue. The principal issue that they have been talking about has been the VDI. And the network with VDI, and I've been looking, doing a lot of research and just looking at the whole framework of just this system, this machine that just really plays as the modem or for the whole central piece. And then you talked about Chrome, and I guess that's more of the logistics and looking into the whole Chrome aspect, because I know other libraries use Evergreen and they are super, super successful with it. There are several steps and whatnot. That's another piece internally that can be fixed. But I can understand the staff's frustration when one piece is not working, then you just everything else is just so negative from there on. So the VDI piece in my thing, I don't understand, and again, just looking into it, don't understand why we as a net could not just use a network-based program that the library already had and all the libraries had, where since Evergreen was already internet or cloud-based versus the VDI. And I know it came about with, people having the personal logins, tracking people's productivity and so forth and all that. But as a not-for-profit professional and there's so many different ways. I mean, the New Rochelle school districts, their teachers have their own login, their networks, and they're going in with their own logins and keys, and they have their own web-based programs like eSchools and all that. I would not see why it would be a challenge. Evergreen has been successful. Why we had to completely change and go to this small little system called closed network of VDI,
Virtual private network.
when
VPN.
Ossining was actually hacked, even with the VDI network. So that's my big question mark.
well, so part of it is that VDI was a strategy that began about 3 or 4 years ago. So one of the things that we have to be careful of is starting and stopping different processes. So I'm not saying that we won't get rid of VDI, but if you get rid of VDI, you have to have a roadmap for how to do it and then reestablish the security protocols. The other thing is there are additional costs that would be associated with getting rid of VDI. So and that's fine. We just, once again, would need to understand that, be prepared for that. And that's really sort of where we're at now. You know, we can talk about the past and all the different decisions we could have made. I think, you know, the real goal here is we're trying to find a roadmap going forward that's either with or without VDI that will provide the type of service that you need so that you can best serve your community. And that's really sort of where we're realigned, and I think we have, you know, action steps in place now that will give us much better information for what our next steps are.
Terry, I know WLS posted 3 RFPs, which closed a few weeks ago. One related to the viability of VDI, one related to the IT management configuration relative to the rest of the libraries, et cetera, and there was a third network-related one. I'm just wondering, you folks have evaluated these RFPs, you've selected vendors?
So we,
Because there's been no announcement about that, which frankly is a communication issue that concerns me because communication has been a problem throughout this whole process of, you know.
so we are still in final negotiations. So once we have a contract, then we can announce where we are. But it has been a long process of negotiating. So we're almost there.
And as you detailed earlier in your presentation, you believe the finalists for each of these RFPs will be able to provide the assistance to help lead us out of this morass. Because frankly, it is, Terry, I'm not here to browbeat you. I have great respect for you and what WLS has done. But currently, as Daniel and Deirdre, who's not here this evening, unfortunately, can testify, we did have a staff meeting yesterday with those two on our staff, and there was many topics that came up, but this system came up, and I would say it was one of the more volatile meetings that I've attended. So it's really been an issue, and our customer support, our service has truly suffered, and our staff morale is down because of it. So I'm just asking you publicly, you know, it is true that you folks will be taking proactive action to resolve these issues, to bring us to a place where it's a system that's functional, that allows us to serve our staff. Because frankly, you know, I've been in the library business a long time, and I've been part of a lot of migrations, and no migration's easy. And usually there are many steps forward and maybe a step or two back, but in this instance, I have to be honest with you, Terry, I see no steps forward, but many steps back. So, you know, as the director of New Rochelle Public Library, as part of the Public Library Directors Association, I want to provide the support to you and your staff, and I commend your staff for dealing with a very stressful environment. But I'm looking forward to having all these issues successfully addressed. You know.
Yeah, I think on that we can definitely agree. So what I will say is we are in the final stages of negotiations for the RFPs. I have a couple of meetings early next week, and I think that will get us to the point where we're ready to move forward. The anticipated start date for the first one is still first thing in January, which would be the operations, because that is sort of the first step. We would also look at the network security and then VDI. And part of it's just the systematic perspective to make sure that we're looking at the broadest issues, identifying the issues that can be fixed, and then going to the narrow one next, and then the narrow one. Because there may be broader issues that could be resolved that actually improve VDI or other aspects. So it's sort of a streamlined approach. Hopefully achieving some big results early on that would have very positive results. So.
I think we should wrap up because we still have a bunch of things to discuss on our agenda, but I was asked by Deirdre to make sure I raised the points that the staff members were concerned with for the record. So, and you've cited some of them, I think, in various ways, but There was the concern that VDI and Evergreen don't talk to each other properly, that there's unpredictability with its successful operation. It blacks out for no reason, that it's impacting the way that staff does their job. I think that it's hindered and doesn't seem, it's like there's no apparent pattern to it, right? They see the potential with Evergreen, but it doesn't feel like it's robust enough and that it can withstand, much right now. I want to raise two more points that I think are really important. Is one of them is the catalog access, that there's a whole area, the ebooks, that there's no access to ebooks, and that's a huge loss to the library, and who's going to find it and how. So I hope that some of your consultants can track down where those ebooks are located in the ether of technology. And I just want to say the one last point, which is, and I know this is what the audit is for, is just to stress the feeling of frustration and the response from the WLS customer service that has been less than stellar. So I just want to make sure I get those out there. And I know you were there and I wasn't, but so I'm just conveying, but I promised Deirdre I would, and I think it's important that it be stated again.
Okay. I hear you, and I do understand, and we will definitely do our best. I do want to just say one thing about the ebooks. So just to be clear, that's not going to be part of the audit per se, because the ebook, whether or not we add them into the catalog, is a recommendation that the e-content committee of the Public Library Directors Association is reviewing. So if that committee makes a recommendation to the other Directors Association that they want to integrate ebooks again, that's something that could happen. But the committee, when we went live, requested that we not do the integration. So I think we're having some mixed results about libraries that want it and libraries
So
that don't
was an
want it.
intentional decision, and that makes like little sense to me. I don't understand that decision.
I'm not on the e-content committee, and I suppose the decision was related to the anxiety regarding the migration, but I believe everyone or most libraries in the WLS network had the expectation that at some point in the fairly recent time period following the migration, that they would be made available. They were previously, for the most part, and they allowed our patrons to have access. They weren't functioning in a vacuum where they didn't know that certain titles were available.
Yeah, so I will certainly bring it up to the chair again, but I would encourage you also, Tom, as PLGA, to ask that once again be reassessed, because it was discussed at the committee, and that point, it was maybe about 4 months ago, and the decision was no. Doesn't mean that it can't be revisited.
I think that decision was made in the context of a situation that was seemingly so chaotic that they felt that it might add another layer of dysfunctionality, because that's how I think we were feeling.
Yeah.
You're
So
saying because of the foundational tech pieces were not there, that
Right.
it wasn't to add another layer.
Right,
It's kind of-
exactly. Because,
it wasn't your sense that it would be a permanent sort of
Oh,
exclusion.
no.
Because I think that's sort of
Right.
what we're hearing.
right, no.
Okay.
Yeah.
And because the migration was a rocky effort, because we lost information related to the previous circulation of titles, we lost some patron information, it was rocky. I think everybody was sort of like, well, will the whole thing explode if we try to integrate that? But I think there was generally a consensus among my peers that that the best access to our ebooks would be through our integrated library catalog, which has access to books and DVDs and music recordings and everything else. It was just a natural.
yeah, no, I'm most certainly open to that, and I will once then work with the chair and see if we can readdress.
I just want to say one last thing in regards to the 3 contractors that are going to do. You mentioned something that the first is going to be the internal for the technical support, right? at WLS, the support staff, right? Is that not?
So the first audit we're doing is for operation services.
Operation services,
Yes,
right?
and it does include a sort of an internal audit of
So
staff.
when operation services audit is concluded, would then step 2 move forward and move VDI? Is that what it is? Or is this
So-
all going to be kind of like a?
They kind of flow, yeah, they'll flow in and out. Part of the thing we want to be careful of is that we don't try to do all 3 audits at the same time and have 3 teams of, auditors asking questions. So really, it's to sort of get through the question phase, let them do the results, bring in another set of auditors, let them do the results. So we're trying to speed it up as much as we can
Right.
without creating too much chaos.
Right. Okay.
Thank you. Thanks for being here and for communicating and for letting us speak with you. And we appreciate your time and look forward to a speedy and thorough resolution and look forward to look forward to regular updates about that.
All right, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Terry.
Financial reports. Anyone? Nope. Okay, statistics. We have
We have
information.
a
Yeah,
packet.
a
just,
packet in here,
yeah.
okay. I'm new, sorry. I don't
cool.
know, I don't linger on the wrong things. WLS, Francis, do you wanna?
Yeah. Thank you for coming.
Let's see what he said.
All right, I have, 4 or 5 points to make, so I'll be a little long if you don't mind.
I do mind, can you
You
not
do?
be so long? Yeah. We have a lot to do, so.
Okay, then
yeah,
I'm gonna be
yeah,
even longer.
Yeah.
No. Okay.
Yeah, I mean, please share what you would need to share with us.
Okay, well, you sent me to WLS to do some work, so.
Yes, no, we do what we do want to hear.
So, okay, very good. And no, the first thing, the first thing is I'd like to congratulate our colleague for the success in
Yes.
the
Thank you.
elections. And,
Congratulations.
Thank you. Right. Our last meeting was on Thursday, November 27, I think it was. And we don't plan to have any meeting in December like this board. I think we don't plan to have any
Till
meeting
January.
in December.
Yeah.
The next meeting will be in January. So at our last meeting, the most important thing we did was to adopt the budget. And Thomas was there to give us support. So the 2020 proposed budget in the amount of 6.8 million from all sources was approved, approximately $58,000 over last year's budget, say approximately. And it included in the budget is anticipated the E-rate funding of $165,000. And there's no proposed increase. I think this is the interesting thing. There's no proposed increase for member fees for 2020. Now, the budget also foresees an over expenditure, an increase in expenses in the amount of $191,000. I'll put it down in the minutes, so just to give you an idea. Of $191,200 before depreciation. But this is going to be offset by the equivalent amount taken from the reserves. And approximately $735,000 is taken, is proposed for the capital budget account, 735. And that is going to be used for the purchase of PCs, to replace all the PCs in the amount of $525,000. And also for the data dashboard, which will help libraries identify areas of success and potential improvement, which I think is a good thing. And that is $30,000. And there will be an amount of $180,000 in wireless network. This is equipment will replace existing equipment and will elevate the speed and performance of the network at all libraries. So I think that's fine. I wanted to go briefly into the kinds of activities that and programs that is anticipated, but I think that will take too long. Let me leave that out. So the point here is that the budget has been approved for 6.8, and there's no increase in member dues, and that the capital budget for 735,000 has also been approved for the purchase of PCs, etc., as I've said earlier. In the discussion of the budget, the board also noted that there are going to be challenges, and I don't want to go into that. We have already discussed some of the challenges. That given the changes precipitated by the migration and malware, the information technology department will have to be strengthened. And in fact, a staff member has been recruited for that. And there are other improvements also foreseen in the budget in the hardware and software, network and professional development, etc., which I wanted to go into, but anyway, I don't want to take too much of your time. The budget also includes a provision for the recruitment of a census coordinator. And this is quite important. So someone is already being hired, I think effective this month, for 6 months. And I think that's very good.
Sorry, in what capacity are they a census?
The what?
There's a census coordinator to help it.
Yeah, the census coordinator will be working with WLS, I think, also assisting the libraries in their participation in the census.
Got it.
How that is going to work out in practical terms.
Yeah, okay. Logistics, it's okay, thank you.
Exactly. Okay. The sources of the budget are the standard ones, the revenue from the New York State, from Westchester County, and the contributions from member libraries, etc. So no change in that. Expenses, there's been a small increase in salaries, the staff, 2% increase in this salaries, and an 8.2% increase in the fringe benefits for the staff.
8 point what?
8.2. But as I said, I will try to put this all neatly in a minute so you can see that. The also approved was a central library aid budget for $354,900. And this, understand that each year the state of New York requires the submission of a budget proposal for the use of the central library development and the central book aid. The central library, of course, is based in Mount Vernon. This was discussed at length at the Directors Association, I understand, and the details of the budget includes things that I don't understand very well, UPLA and Canopy and all these other systems. But the reason I bring this up is that although the budget was approved unanimously, it was one dissent. The director of Mount Vernon voted against that. Principally because he did not agree with the way the budget for the support of the Central Library was drawn up. She felt that they were not properly involved in the process, and that this thing was discussed. This was discussed at the directors' meeting without their involvement. So, in other words, this budget was sort of a fait accompli as far as she was concerned, and she sort of took exception to that. The board then decided that she had to come out with proposals of how she would like to be involved in this kind of exercise in the future. It's easy to complain, but to come out with a solution of how things should be done. The way we just discussed this migration thing, it's easy to talk about problems, but it's not quite easy to talk about the way things should be done.
Right, what do you want?
Yeah, what do you want? So that is one. In the director's report, the executive director's report, he raised 3 or 4 points that I'd like to briefly raise with you. One is the census 2020. We were informed that Governor Cuomo announced an amount of $60 million in promoting census 2020 activities nationwide, $60 million. Now, a large portion of the funding, that is $40 million, will be directed to marketing awareness. activities, and that will go through statewide agencies, including in the motor vehicles. The remaining 20 million will be distributed to other participating organizations, including the libraries. We were told that the details of how this is going to work out, that's the use of the 20 million in particular, which affects us, is not yet clear. I think that's probably going to be developed as we go along, maybe early in the year. And as I said earlier, the candidate for the census coordinator has been identified, and the person has really been recruited, I think, effective December 1st. That is one. The second thing that came out in the executive director's report is the problems with the information technology services update. You heard that loud and clear from the executive director himself. There is an initiative by the county executive called the One Book Westchester initiative, an interesting one. The goal of the One Book Westchester is to promote literacy throughout Westchester County by focusing on local authors who highlight the county's history as well as celebrate the diversity and shared vision of a better life. This literacy initiative, sponsored by the county executive office, was launched by him on November 21st last month.
Is this like almost like a collective book club
Yeah,
where you focus? They
exactly,
did this
yeah,
in
right.
New York
And
City
there's
too.
Exactly. There's a
Yeah.
piece of books here.
It's
I'd
excellent.
like to go
Yeah.
into that.
That's excellent.
But it's quite interesting, and that came up. And yesterday during the fundraising activity at Rotary, where we honored the executive director, the county executive, was able
George Latimer, yep.
to mention that to him,
Yes.
to his delight.
Excellent.
The next point is the Macmillan Library ebook embargo. You might have heard about that from other sources. Here's the point. In July, Macmillan Publishing announced that it would limit ebook lending to the US libraries. Under its new licensing model, which began on November 1st, a library may purchase one copy upon release of a new title in ebook format, after which the publisher will impose an 8-week embargo on additional copies that title sold to libraries. Macmillan is the only major publisher restricting public libraries' ability to purchase and lend digital content to their communities. This, of course, has irritated many consumers, many libraries, including the American Library Association. And I think our public library directors discussed this also and took great exception to that. I think they wrote to the Macmillan's Chief Executive Officer, John Sargent, highlighting the seriousness of this step and asking him, Macmillan, to reverse. Of course, he ignored that. But the board decided that we should continue putting pressure on Macmillan. Now, how this affects us here, I don't know, maybe Tom can say a few words.
I can just briefly say that there is an embargo on the purchase of Macmillan's ebooks, and it's not affecting their print or their other materials, their e-audio, but we are not purchasing those titles, nor are most of our colleagues in the Westchester Library System and throughout the country, because we're hoping that we can dissuade Macmillan from continuing with this policy. It's unfair to libraries, it's unfair to library patrons who can't afford these materials, and it's short-sighted because, frankly, lots of people borrow ebooks and then will purchase a book in print if they know it's a book that they really value. So our staff, we are not purchasing ebooks. And quite frankly, the other reason is we're really afraid that, there's only five big publishing firms, and we're fairly certain that they are watching how this is working out. And if this is a model that works for Macmillan, then we are afraid that they will start doing this for their ebook products, and we want to stop it right here now. So we're contributing in our small way.
Yeah. So I understand that the WLS has put up a statement on his website to this effect. So as far as the American-based libraries are concerned, I think a lot of pressure is being put on Macmillan. They're major British publishing companies, so I don't know to what extent they will bend to this pressure. My last point is to do with the 60th annual meeting of WLS, which was held on the 21st of November. Tom was there and I was there. It was well attended by about 100 people, I would say, or 100 plus. There were guests of honors, Senate Majority Leader Andrea Stewart was there, and I think also Steve Otis.
Steve Otis,
yeah.
and Tom Abenati.
Yeah, that's right, they attended this. The guest speaker, Rich Hammond, spoke very well, but it was brilliant. I mean, so many people read their speeches, but this guy just talked for about 1 hour on the importance of reaching out and being active in the community. He wrote a book on that and gave us a free copies of it. It's an excellent book, although I haven't read it. The point? Yeah. The second thing is, and I say this with a lot of pride, and I think you should also receive it in that way, that in making his remarks, the president of the WLS board, Sean Ryan, paid a particular tribute to our library and to our director. As our library being an outstanding library, he said that New Rochelle Public Library had received the highest amount of New York State Library construction grants of all the 38 libraries in the state. And this is containing information in the spreadsheets coming, spanning the period from 2006 to the present time. And the total amount involved is about $1,309,554. Wow. So, and our library is noted as being very active, well used, full of useful activities, and a center of real activities for the community. This was said loudly. Of course, I was walking on 10 feet above the ground when that was told. So I think this is a great tribute to what our library is doing and to the great work that the director is doing. I think that's all I have to say.
Well, that's it? Oh, that's great, Francis. Thank you. Really, that's wonderful. I was just asking Tom if there was anything we could do individually as far as Macmillan Publishing goes, and he said, yes, we can write a letter to their CEO, which I hope that we would do and that some of our fellow libraries would do, because from the WLS, it is one voice, but once
Yes, exactly.
it shows how the trickle-down effect is going to be felt by individuals. And we, as a voice for our patrons, I think they deserve our advocacy for all the titles, which I'm sure are great. Macmillan's a great publisher. It's disappointing to hear that they're doing this. That's great. Thank you. President's report. That's me tonight. So I just realized that. I have a couple of things real quick. At the last meeting, we had mentioned that Deirdre and Daniel and I were scheduled, and did you join?
I was ill that day.
You were sick? Oh, I'm sorry to hear that. You weren't there, I remember now. That we went to meet with the Commissioner for Economic Development here in New Rochelle and the mayor and the city manager to talk about the 11 Lawton Street development. And, you know, we learned that it's not yet a done deal, that it's still in progress. We advocated on behalf of the library's parking. We asked why they didn't include us to begin with. And, you know, I don't know if you want to chime in as far as,
Yeah,
you know.
so just to clarify that, it was approved by the planning board.
That's right.
However, as far as the developers themselves, they're still looking for investors to see if this project
That's
is
right.
actually going to happen.
Right.
So their plans are approved. Did they secure the money? We'll have a building there.
And if
But
it's not them, it's likely to be somebody.
But something will,
Something will go there.
Go
It's
there.
just we don't know if it's the building we saw. At
that's the building right now approved to be there.
Right.
So.
And further to that, the meeting was important. You know, we went to the meeting with the singular focus of making sure that we could come and report to the public about what's happening. And I think it was an important step towards fostering our relationship with the processes that result in development. So basically, we were asking to be included as part of a checklist. If you want to develop here, who are the partners and who are the stakeholders, who are the community members that you need to meet with and talk to, and we want to be on that list. We think within reason, I mean, not something that's not in a location that has nothing to do with us, but certainly within a respectable geographic range, we feel that we want to be kept in the loop. But not only that, that we are, we're part of the kind of information circuit.
How were you received? Did it take you for granted? Did they take you seriously, or are you just one of the people who are complaining? Or I mean, how did they take you?
A little
Well, it was about 8:30 in the morning,
Yep.
Bright
bright and early.
bright and early. So I would say that
There was a weariness to it, I would say. I think
city on one side,
Yeah.
us on the other.
Yeah, I think that they
Yeah.
there was a weariness to
We
it.
got hats.
We got hats and some totes. And but to be fair, there was an acknowledgement that they were grumpy. They stated that, and we laughed about it. They're like, "Sorry, we seem so grumpy. We talk about parking all the time." Right, and we made the suggestion that, which they were receptive to, that we figure out a way to get a pool or a contribution pot from any developer within a certain range of the library to put money into that kind of like a way to validate parking for library patrons. So it doesn't mean changing the current system. It just means putting a layer on top of it that shows something within the machines or something. Look, I'm parking here for an hour or 2 hours. You get, your first hour free or whatever, so that we can not have parking be, a discouragement for people to come. So and use our library.
Are you saying they agreed to that, or they agreed to discuss
They were
it?
open to
explore,
it,
that's
to
what I thought.
explore.
To explore,
Right?
yeah.
No. They didn't agree to it on the spot. That would be
Send them for
amazing.
everything.
No,
Oh no.
no. They yeah, and
I mean, the response was, at the end of the day, we're a city.
right.
White Plains, you have to pay. Everywhere you have to pay.
Just as a sidebar to this very reasonable request, our foundation president was at a family event in Austin, Texas. She, being the kind of person she is, she took a tour of the library, brand new, $120 million, shiny new. And guess what she discovered? A large parking garage with a billboard that indicated first hour free. So it's been done. It's been done in Princeton, New Jersey. There are other libraries in the country that have relationships where the public is granted an hour of free parking. It's not so bizarre as some people might purport. It's very reasonable.
I'm interested to see statistics for December and January, being that the city has given downtown 2 hours of free holiday parking. So I'm
They
interested.
do it every year, don't they?
Yeah,
they
but
do.
I'm
Okay,
interested
every year.
just, just to see
If there's a spike
if
in
there's
general.
a spike
You could ask
in,
the last
in
person.
general. But one thing in regards to development, so as we came in with our serious faces, they really did, they took us serious and into consideration. There is a project that is proposed for the Division and Main Street.
I think it's
Is it?
Memorial
Memorial
Highway
Plaza.
and Main,
Um,
which is another
Oh.
neighbor.
Right.
Yeah, so it's the old pharmacy that's in the corner.
Oh, that
and
used to
we
be
are-
like a 99-cent store.
Yeah,
That was
yeah, and then
all-
a children's
all
clothing
that.
store or something. So we are scheduled to meet with the developers tomorrow and development department, just to see what's up. We need to see what's going on. Is the parking lot going to be affected? Is it not? Is it half the parking? Is it just the property? What's happening? It has not gone before the planning board, so I don't want anyone to think that, something is up. We're just been given the consideration to have this conversation and give our point of view.
Right, so they had reached out following our previous meeting to say, you asked for meetings with developers, and here's one. Do you want to come to it? It's at this time. So, which is positive, yeah.
And just so you folks know, everybody in the audience and out there in the ether, we are meeting with those folks tomorrow. However, according to the development department, there will be a planning board presentation on January 17th. Public not allowed to comment, just to listen. And there will be a formal hearing on January 28th.
Make note.
Make note.
And that one does have a public comment.
That absolutely does have
January 28th.
Public hearing.
Public hearing. So
Are there any images for the plan that you're discussing tomorrow? Like NIMBY, WIMBY, what was the one that?
they apparently had to go back and redraw some things because when we were there.
But I'm sure it's online. I'm sure
something
it's
is
online.
online, but when we had asked for, to know more and they suggested this, they said, we sent them back.
Got it.
It's not ready, but then this came up, so
Got it.
they must have made some progress.
It's really, there's very little known about this project at this point in time. We're hoping that this will all be rolled out. It's reassuring that we are being noticed because, of course, with 11 Lawton Street, we absolutely had no notice, no letter, no anything. We had no information that they were building this building close to us. And also, when the shade study was done, they took into account many, many institutions, our park, our monument,
Yeah, we
but
wanna
they
make sure
left the
that
library out.
Shadow study is done at the property, not the parking lot.
Right.
So
Right, so,
This was Memorial Plaza. I'm not sure what the address is.
It was the Paul's Record Hut back in the day, Allmark Drugs. It was like a clothing, like
Like
a
a-
kid's clothing
right.
store or something.
Memorial
It's
and
painted blue
project
right now. It's very
project
pretty.
location is 12,16 Memorial Highway and 521, 519, and 525 Main Street, New Rochelle, New York.
It's Exotic Nails, it's the wig store
It's on there.
and the corner
it's on the letter that we
property,
received.
that's right across from the open.
It's like where
the
Alvin and
plaza
Friends
on
is.
Memorial.
If you're looking across the street from Alvin and Friends, is the parking lot to the right, like right before you hit Main, there's a building. It's vacant now. I think it has like
It's
RXR
painted blue.
branding.
It's
So,
painted blue.
you know where Liebman's is?
Yes. across the street from
Liebman's, right across.
Where the clothes.
They put this on the windows. They put like the postings on the windows
The
of
renderings of
RXR,
RXR.
rental images. Yes, but the developer's name is Main and Memorial Assemblage LLC.
Which may be a
Subset.
subset of
Correct,
RXR.
correct.
We don't really know. Maybe we'll find out tomorrow.
Ms. Oliver, did you say something? Did you?
Main and
It's,
Memorial Assemblage LLC. Yeah, it does.
And their address is 1.
Well,
We're not sure. That's what we're gonna go see tomorrow.
That's the big question.
That's I hope we have not seen anything. We just know that we got a notice. We're gonna show up. We're gonna look at see what drawings, if any. We don't know. We don't know. We don't know.
A speculation in certain quarters, frankly, what I've heard is that it may include a portion of the Library South parking lot, the back part. It may not be true, but that's a major concern because our parking is so dear to us. And it would certainly be a blow to lose even a piece of it, frankly.
That's it for the president's report. Director's report.
Okay. Well, I'll try to make this quick. Our state grants, as you know, are moving along nicely. We have our $140,000 grant for the second floor renovation, phase 1. We're waiting to get pricing from our vendor and ready to move forward. We did complete our grant and the project for the Huguenot Children's Library new boiler, hot water heater. We still have a few more components to purchase, but that is well underway and just in the nick of time, given the weather. Our large grant for the second phase of the second floor renovation, of course, we will not see that till probably in late summer, early fall. And I just want to say that we have received 1.3 million with that grant and the grant for the Huguenot Children's Library. We will go over 1.6 million. So that's really exciting. So, we're continuing to improve our buildings. We're investing in our infrastructure. We have a lot invested with our own tax dollars, and we're making it a functional, attractive place. And it's exciting to be part of this effort to, provide the kind of library the community deserves. Let's see what else. Yeah, my mic broke. Oh, well. Let's see. I just would like to provide an update regarding the soon-to-be vacancy for the library trustees, but before that, I would be negligent and rude if I didn't thank you, dear, for all your work. You've always brought brilliance and nice personality.
Thank
nice
you.
sense of humor. It's a good combination. So
Thank you.
the city council's gain is our loss, and so thank you.
you
And
very much.
remember us. We may be contacting you to say hello and a
And
few
talk
other
about
things.
parking, as Chuck just
Yeah,
said.
yeah. So I'm not just buttering you up.
Thank
but,
you.
So our as you folks know, Deirdre's resignation will take effect at the.
Or Yadira.
Deirdre,
Yep.
sorry, not Deirdre.
Close.
Sorry.
Same letters.
Yeah,
Close,
yeah,
yes.
yeah. No, I don't. Oh boy, no way. So this vacancy will take place as of December 31st. We have advertised throughout the community. We haven't gotten a response yet, which is surprising.
When did you put it?
We started in probably the Monday after the board meeting last month. So it started in later November.
I saw it on social.
Yeah, we put it in social media. We have it on our webpage.
So can
We
I just
did
say
our
one thing
email.
about that post though? There's no email associated with that post. It's just suggesting to drop off in person.
Oh,
I looked at last year's
we
post,
should.
the last time, and there was an email associated with it. So I emailed.
It's funny,
so-
I mailed mine.
Yeah,
That's
so
funny.
so I'm just saying
Like
I'm just
4
saying
years
that it
ago,
does
yeah.
say it doesn't even say to mail. It just says to drop off.
Maybe
So
we should do an updated version.
so
Does it?
as great as it sounds to motivate people to come to the library and drop off and chill, but
Well,
you're gonna have to have an email list because I think a lot of people can't make it, to drop off on time.
Each of us should also amplify that message to
Yeah.
get.
So can I request for a revised
Absolutely.
posting with
Yep.
an email address?
I'll get on it tomorrow.
Um, Yeah.
Yeah, it does say, it says send to the library by January 3rd, rather, it doesn't.
Did you click on the link on the web and it doesn't,
I'll do it right now.
because I think it goes to a press
It
release
goes to the press release.
and it doesn't say it? Nope.
No.
All right,
No.
that's our mistake, our bad.
And it's ours too, because we saw it and I don't think no one caught it.
Yeah, no, but
When we
you're
reviewed it,
absolutely
right?
right, Daniel. In this day and age, not to have an email address is backwards, to put it in a word. Okay, maybe once we correct that, we'll have a deluge, which would be a nice problem.
So if no one's interested, we then extend the deadline.
Sure.
I'm just saying,
I just
What's
find
the
it
price?
astonishing that after a
Yeah.
number of years where we
You
had
were
a
very
plethora
popular,
of
yes.
really good, strong candidates, it was one strong candidate alongside the other. It would be shocking to see it all fall off, but.
But if Dan and Whitney are sort of reporting that they had email, maybe that helped
I think
spike
so.
some of the participation,
Yeah,
so
yeah.
it might make sense.
No, we'll get on it. I'll reach out to our staff tomorrow to create an updated version that will include an email link because I missed it, so.
Cool.
Anyway.
Good catch, Dan.
Let's see what else. I would also like to report on our friends. Today was their board meeting. They approved our budget request for next year of $64,000, which is great. But what's truly amazing is you've heard me talk briefly from month to month, the amount of money the Friends have given us, and this year is a bellwether. Most money given to the library in its 25 plus years. Now we're at 92,000, which is a tremendous amount of money, all earned the hard way. Not a lot of big donations there. It's a sale of our library materials. So I think it's important to highlight that and to thank Amy Teets and her board and the members. And frankly, it's not a big group. It's in terms of keeping this operation afloat, it's less than a dozen. So anybody out there who is looking for an opportunity to volunteer, the Friends are great strategy. You could be a cashier and sell material in the lobby. It's fun. It's interesting. If you have an interest in books, you can help sift through the 1,000 donations a month. So that's a consideration. The Friends are on hiatus for book donations for this month, just because they were reached overload. But we're hoping they'll resume in January. So it's worth mentioning. Our foundation, of course, continues to function. Maybe Chuck and Beth would like to talk about our meeting regarding that app now. You want it?
The meeting that we just had?
Yeah. Or
Do you want us to say something?
Well, I'll just mention Beth, Tom, and I met to look at Tom's preliminary foundation request for the year, which was very thoughtful, and we had some thoughts on the request and sort of some prioritization, and there was a couple of items on there. One that I would highlight around updating a number of our security cameras that we thought, although that's something that we probably should be doing, I'm not sure we weren't sure that that's probably something the foundation should be needing to pay for. It's more of be business as usual operational activity. So, as a next step, we're going to schedule, which was what we had agreed to do, a meeting with Chris Sellen, the president of the foundation, and Lynn Green, is she the vice president of the foundation, to just socialize the requests with them, and then we'll bring it back to I think at the January meeting, we'll bring it back to this group kind of with the consensus that has been arrived at.
the next foundation board meeting is not until the next year, which means January 21st. And I just want to report unofficially that Chris Sellen and the foundation are busy, underway, planning for their next big fundraising event, which is going to be a really fun one. It will relate to a scavenger hunt for New Rochelle, about New Rochelle, and details are still forming, but we think it'll be just a great event, fun. It'll allow people to revisit the New Rochelle and its history and maybe learn some things too as well. And again, the foundation year after year just throws their full weight into supporting the library, these events, and the monies that they gave us this year, it tops over $140,000, which includes also that match for the grant that we're so lucky to get, but other things too that relate to special efforts that will allow us to make a better library. Particularly areas in the children's area where it's a far more improved and attractive space because they've allowed us to purchase different kinds of furniture. There's technology, there's their Museum Pass program that we couldn't make available to our public without their support. It's really quite widespread. So, kudos to the Friends and the foundation. We're so extraordinarily lucky to have two amazing groups, not just one, but two. And that's it for me.
Good. Thank you. Personnel report?
Yep.
Maybe before you go to personnel, I talked about, I talked about the special recognition that our board, the library received at the board. The board president will be visiting us next week. Tom and I will be hosting that visit, and we'll show him around all the different renovations and so on at the library, and talk about the issues and the problems and so on. And then we'll take him to lunch. I think that's a good gesture, Mrs.
I think so. Next Thursday, we'll have Sean Ryan here, and he's very excited to see all the things that we've done, and we're very proud to show him all the great things that are going on here. I just have two components of the personnel report. One relates to the archivist. I had mentioned that David Rose was appointed. He's a longtime New Rochelle resident and an extraordinarily well-qualified, credentialed, and successful archivist. And he will begin his first day here at New Rochelle Public Library on January 2nd. And we're very excited about that. You know, we have been talking with him. He already has a game plan about how we can take our local history materials, organize them, you know, more efficiently, provide digital access. And one collection he's going to be start working on almost immediately is the League of Women Voters. It's the 100th anniversary of the founding. Our club here in New Rochelle was one of the first. Carrie Chapman Catt she was a trailblazer, and she was a New Rochelle person. So, you know, you'll see our collection become more available, more finding aids, more electronic access. And so just very excited to see David arrive. He's an impressive fellow. And the other thing I'm going to ask for is a resolution for salary increases for our pages. Our pages are typically paid in the area of a minimum wage. As you know, the state of New York has, by law, has decreed that that wage must go up. We had sent to the Personnel Committee prior to tonight's meeting our proposal, like we've done in previous years, to increase the salaries for those very hardworking people who make a modest sum but work hard to keep the library organized and together. And I would ask a resolution, and I will read it off fairly quickly for the following people.
And you're bringing them up in line with what's happening in the state?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And there are some pages that have been here for very long periods of time, and they're getting increases that are slightly over the minimum wage, because we thought it was unfair to bring up a page who has been here for 15 years at the same salary level as somebody who just started 6 months ago. But the gap is fairly.
I mean, you think we can cover it within the budget?
Oh, absolutely. We absolutely can.
And to be clear, the minimum wage is going from 12 to 13.
13. Yeah,
In Westchester.
Right, and many of our pages are, as part of this resolution you'll hear, are going to go up to that $13 minimum, which seems fair.
And the personnel committee reviewed and feels.
Yes.
Who's on the personnel committee?
Me and Deidre.
Okay.
I know Deirdre responded and said fine.
I responded as well.
Yep, Daniel
Oh, that's
too.
great.
So I'll make the motion. I'll make it very quickly. I'll mention the name of the page and her current wage to, or his current wage to the increased wage. Estefany Ochoa Ramirez from $12 to $13. Dawn D. Nicola from $12.25 to $13.25. Beatrice Gairoso Alvarez from $12 to $13. Jessica Hernandez from $12.44 to $13.44. Malak Omano from $12 to $13. Diara Johnson Smith from $12.20 to $13.20. Robert Klein from $12.44 to $13.44. Urania Moraga from $13.30 to $14.30. Lena Varghese from $12 to $13. Could I have a motion to approve those increases?
I make a motion to approve the increases of the people named by Tom just now. Can I have a second?
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? Any opposed? Okay, the motion passes, and so pages get their raises.
Thank you, folks. They're deserving. And my
Absolutely.
report is over.
Okay. Committee reports. Budget committee.
We'll be meeting next month.
Okay. Meeting in January. Building and grounds, Sarah's not here. Do you want to
I
fill
do.
everybody in?
Yep. First of all, I just want to provide an update regarding the building audit for the vendor that we hired, APS. I spoke with Doug Emilio, who is the principal. He says things are going well. They're on target. They have been in the building this week. They will be back in this building as well as Huguenot Children's Library next week. And they are entirely confident that they will have a draft report for board examination in mid-January as detailed. And what we're hoping to do is to have a Buildings and Grounds and Capital Repair Oversight Committee meeting. So that group of people, those folks, will evaluate this report, ask questions, on site where Doug will be there as well as our people to have a meaningful dialogue. And then from there, the report, once approved, will be presented to the library board at the February meeting. We would like Doug to be available for a brief presentation and for questions and answers from the board as a whole, since it's such an important element in regards to our current status as well as the future. So that's good news. The other report I'd just like to make is relative to the Huguenot Children's Library. As you folks know, this is a historic building, historic to our city, and we are obligated and happy to maintain this building. One issue with the physical plant that's become problematic is the roof at the Huguenot Children's Library. We recently experienced some leaks and some damage resulted. We brought on a vendor who made great repairs. We're in good shape, but what we know, not just through this vendor, through other people, is that we need to consider an overall strategy to replace that roof. And to that end, we are in conversations with a highly recommended roofing consultant who will be coming to visit the building next week. So myself and Rob Florin, our lead custodian, will be there, help him get up on the roof and take a look at the situation. Following that examination, we will have a full proposal in which the consultant, Mr. Watsky, will manage the process from writing the specs along with an architect to putting out a public bid, managing that public bid, and then making certain that the contractor that wins that bid carries forward and does exactly what we want. And one aspect of this project is to make sure that whatever work is done is historically consistent with the building, so it is appropriate. So I will
Are they
have
tiles?
Are they tiles? The slate on the facade is slate. Now the roof, the flat roof above it is not. And the question actually was whether I think it's like a typical membrane. It was done by the partnership many years ago. I mean, it certainly has lived a fair, reasonable life. It's about 25 years old. And so we need to make a decision about protecting that building. And so with Mr. Watsky, we'll have a proposal. I'm hoping at that meeting that we have for the Buildings and Grounds Committee in Croc, we'll not only talk to Doug Emilio and APS, but we'll also have a chance to look at this proposal. We have time, but I think it's worth it to put it in the pipeline so that we know where we stand.
Excellent, thank you. Community relations.
So the first things first.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Yes.
Did we decide about the building manual?
We haven't made a final decision.
Okay.
So, and it's something that can wait,
Okay.
so time is not imminent.
Okay, and there was no savings to be had doing it as part of the building audit process
No.
that we're doing now, okay? And it wasn't cheap either, it's $12,000.
It was
I
not
believe.
cheap.
Yeah, okay, just checking. Sorry, Daniel, please.
So for community relations, so the first thing is the census committee. I sit on the city's complete count committee. So does Barbara Davis. One of the things that has
Just joined.
Oh, welcome. One of the things that has come up is we do not know how how much or what is allocated in regards to that funding that the governor has said. No information has come down to the city on that end. So that's a question mark. However, the committee is dedicating themselves. Number one, there's a big push to do a huge launch event on when Census Day does launch, from having several not-for-profit organizations, the library, and other hubs to have a launch event with information. Some people are even having a DJ and music, and similar to when you voted and you got a sticker. They're trying to do something where, like, I counted type of thing, where you get a sticker for doing your census or something. So we're trying to hype things up for people to be to get counted. There's also a push for canvassing, just getting the information out there to members of the community. One of the things is the fear that a lot of the immigrant or undocumented population may have. One of the questions that individual said to me once is, well, how do I avoid someone knocking from my door? I may think it's ICE or something. And the answer to that is, do it online. So if they can do it early, they avoid from having an individual coming to your door, knocking to do your census. So it's about informing individuals about that. The question about many people who are renting rooms or illegal apartments, their landlords are telling their tenants not to do the census because the city of New Rochelle will get that type of information. City of New Rochelle does not care, nor will they get that information. The landlords will not be investigated, everything is taken care of. So they're encouraging individuals that rent rooms or have illegal apartments to get counted because it is important for them to get out there and just do the census. So that's a fear that's in the community in the city of New Rochelle. The second thing is on Monday, December 16th, the city of New York will be opening up their DMV doors for the Green Light campaign. So what that means is pretty much driving license for individuals that are undocumented. There is a 6-point scale, the same process as anyone that would get a learner's permit and go through the process. There is a website, greenlightny.org or something like that. There's several forums and workshops that are being involved. So that's something that's important, and I would assume that there'll be probably individuals coming to the library to speak to the community relations department or something, Tom, just FYI, because I know that's something of where people can get information. And one of the things that I was going to ask, if it would be possible, and I will send you the link, Tom. There is a link where libraries and government institutions can request driving manuals in English and Spanish, and it's completely free. You can get up to 750 books. So I know that's something that a lot of members have been talking about, or perhaps collaborating with other agencies that can also distribute those books, Tom, and we can talk further about that.
Yeah, I received an email today and I sent it to Barbara about this issue.
Yeah.
Actually, I'm trying to find it as we talk.
Yeah, so that's something that's coming up. It actually launches on Monday. People are trying to make appointments and things are already booked till February 18th. So you have to make your appointment. The second thing is for the fundraising scavenger hunt event. I mentioned this before in asking for members of the board to set up their own team. Instead of us having one team, I think it will be fruitful for all of us to have our own team. And one of the possibilities is to have a team captain meeting, which will involve us, members of the board, as well as other people that have been kind of reached out to be team captains. And again, it's open to anyone who's interested in being a team captain to have we want to take a team captain picture and do a press release and everything. And Chris and I spoke, and we're thinking of possibly doing it at our next library board meeting in January, but doing it at 7:00 so we can take the picture and all that good stuff, and then we can move forward with our meeting. But it's still up in the air. It was just I just suggested it would be best since we'll be here as a board. So The second piece is a report that Barbara sent as far as things that are happening, programs that are happening in December that are completely free for children pre-K through grades 5. December 26th, they'll be showing Toy Story 4. There'll be a live performance February 27th from 2 p.m. to
January?
Sorry, I
December.
saw Friday, December
December.
27th. You can tell that I want 2019 to be over already. There'll be a live performance. They are part of the Big Apple Circus Sarasota, juggling, pranks, magic, loads of humor. December 30th from 11 a.m. to 11:45. Kurt Gallagher, he'll be doing live performance for young people in celebration of New Year's. Kapuli, January 2nd to January 4th, 2020. Kapuli Mexican Dance Company will be coming in. There's also going to be Ring in the New Year, January 31st, happening at New Rock. That's sponsored by December 31st, happening at New Rock. And I will be there face painting. So if anybody wants to get their face painting, I'm going to try. I've done it.
Well, then
I've done it for the
then.
past
This is
5
the first
years.
time.
And believe it or not, soccer balls and Batman are the hardest ones to do. So yeah, they're getting a white circle on their cheek. And then January 3rd, The Willow in Winter. It's a show that's happening here in this theater. And last thing, family concert, December 22nd from 3 p.m. to 4 p.m. Sing Your Heart Out chorus on December 22nd. So, and that is it for my report.
Could I just, Daniel, I just wanted to update you. We had received an email, actually, from Terry Kirshner regarding the Catholic Charities, which is willing to present talks about the ability of all New Yorkers age 16 and above to apply for a driver's license. And so we're going to advertise that. We are fearful that, a public meeting that would provide this service may cause people not to want to attend because of the very real fear that, ICE could show up as well. But we do have that program, and maybe something can be arranged with Catholic Charities in a more private setting. And the other thing I want to mention is something that was brought up actually a year or so ago by one of our audience members, Ms. Sachs, and that is the possibility of the library providing free meals in the summertime for young people who otherwise might not have food. And so we're going to be working with this organization. It's the Summer Food Service Program, where there are a number of public libraries that do so. It doesn't require a kitchen. It could be more compact. Yeah, and so,
paper?
you want to see that?
Mhm.
Yeah.
Oops,
Sorry.
sorry.
And so we're very excited about this. We'd like to be able to offer it. It could be every day during the week. Could also include snacks. And so the cost is apparently very minimal, if anything at all. There may be some other sidebar costs as well, but I think this is a program that's well worth our exploring, because we see in the library, there are children who spend the balance of the day in the children's library, and to a lesser extent in the teen area, and they are not eating. It's terrible. So it's just terrible. So we think that maybe we'll have a solution.
No.
Could you send this around,
Yep,
Tom?
we'll do so.
I would love to look at this.
Yeah.
And I will do that when that's great. That's a really good idea. So I think it's just a matter of learning about logistics, and thankfully it's not summer yet, but I wonder if it applies to school vacations as well.
It's interesting.
I think, as we sort of approach a 2-week hiatus, I think we've mentioned the school district is closed for 2 full weeks. And so, yeah, December 23rd through the 3rd. And so there may be some kids who go hungry because of that.
It's terrible, yeah. Well, we'll investigate. I know our staff is looking into it, and I'll double check and find out, and maybe involve myself to see. I don't know if something could be.
It does
arranged.
say libraries that offer after-school enrichment programs throughout the year may also serve meals or snacks after school for kids and teens during the regular school year. So I'm assuming that probably during winter, spring break, and all that good stuff.
Who sponsors this? Who pays for this?
It's I believe it's a government program, and it may have some foundation support too.
It has funded by New York State OTDA, FRAC, the Walmart Foundation, and our Share Our Strength Institute.
Are there any area libraries using it or collaborating? Yonkers, sorry.
Yonkers is certainly using it, and I think there are a few others as well. And the director has said that it's been a success. One of the concerns that we have is just space.
Right.
The space
That's
to
my
do it.
question, is
In
where
the
we do it.
summertime, we were
Yep.
envisioning the possibility of taking advantage of our children's alphabet garden, maybe putting up some sort of very large, tent, make it kind of fun and playful, and then having that space fairly
Kids,
secure,
right.
where kids could go out there, they could eat,
Right.
no fear of
Spills or
yeah.
Ketchup
And
or
also just a space that
Yeah.
could be very appealing. So,
Well.
so I'm excited about the possibility of doing this.
Yeah.
I mean, and I think even on a rainy day, or if there's a space inside that we could find, and you could have fold up flooring that you could take in and out, so that you could just minimize messiness. But I also think that should be the least of our
Least of our
concerns,
worries.
right? And I feel like those are easy problems to solve.
In the summertime, we are so extraordinarily busy. I know you all know that there's it seems like there's not 1 inch of free space. That's why thinking of using the alphabet garden in a different kind of way could really take care of a lot of issues. And
I mean, they do say here that you can host your meals on your property or bring your summer programming to nearby partners and sites.
Good to know.
It would be pretty cool to partner with a local restaurant or restaurants or something
or
like that. I
even
don't know.
Trinity Church. They have a large space.
That's
Because
too.
it's close.
It's
Yeah.
really close. It wouldn't
So
be
if
terribly
parents
dangerous.
if the kid's coming here, they can get there, right?
Yeah.
Because you want
Right.
it to be the proximity.
So I think all those things are deserving of
really
our
good idea.
consideration.
And then at Huguenot, y'all have the tables and stuff outside.
Yep.
So
Mhm.
if you were to do it a split.
Yep, no, we do, and we have the awning there, so,
Mm-hmm.
when there's poor weather. So
There's a lot of possibilities.
a lot of possibilities, and I think we need to explore them, because we need to really see New Rochelle as it is and deal with those.
It's commendable. I mean, the one thing that vis-a-vis the city count, just like the number of families who that said that the kids were hungry when there wasn't, and what the summer looked like without formal school and breakfast and lunch opportunities. So it's pretty timely and reflective of the needs.
Daniel has, or somebody does, Beth does.
Is it Hunger Solutions?
It is.
Hunger Solutions, New York.
Yeah, so it's the program itself is called Hunger Solutions New York, Uniting Policies and Progress in Hunger, but there's a total of 6 different websites that you can visit. foodhelpnewyork.org, summermealsnewyork.org, childcaremealsnewyork.org, schoolmealshubnewyork.org, afterschoolmealsnewyork.org, or hungersolutionsnewyork.org.
These are NY.
Yeah.
I'm sure if you Google Hunger Solutions, you'll find all
And
of
just the last thing that I want to add, and then we can move forward, is that, and Tom already highlighted our colleague here, Yadira Ramos, for her win, but she will be part of the inauguration ceremony that will be happening on Wednesday, January 1st, 2020. Doors will open at 1:30 and the ceremony will start promptly at 2 p.m.
City Hall?
City Hall, reception immediately following in the rotunda. Congratulations.
Congratulations.
It's a bipartisan swearing in, so Al's doing it. So it'll be
Yeah,
fun.
all the council people that were elected will be there.
Very good. Thank you very much. Finance Committee? Nothing? Okay, Personnel Committee? Nothing? Policy Committee? We have two things to
right?
discuss, yep.
The children's fine policy is probably the easiest one, and
Yep.
so the balance Jean did some investigation, and while maybe not 100% specific to every penny or dollar, it looked like the difference between months regarding late fees was right now 2019 to date $1,350. So it's a low number based on the month so part of that includes the part of time that we were waiving the fees. So there's a little bit of that, but the numbers weren't very high in general. So the policy committee voted to approve it and suggested bringing it to the board to vote, keeping the elimination of the fines for children and young adult materials moving forward.
Do you want the issue with us, could we restrict it to children? The teen issue it's hard to segment that out, but we could
Children,
explore
it's fine.
that. I would be more
for
than
now.
happy.
Yeah,
Right,
so
yeah.
start with children.
Yeah,
Yeah.
for now, and then we can continue to investigate. Do you want to make a motion,
Make a
Yadira?
motion to permanently remove overdue fines for children's materials for our library.
Oh, I second. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? Okay, the motion passes. We have permanently waived children's fines for children materials, children's materials.
Which is great, and maybe we can make sure we get that out.
Make that
I'll let my
announcement.
staff
Yeah.
know tomorrow.
So like social and the website, I think that'd be a
Yeah.
nice thing.
Yeah.
You could,
Well, first I want to make sure we're
can
ready
do it,
for
right?
Right? Because
In light of
WLS
our conversation.
Yeah, right. WLS
Yes.
the last time held us up for a month, but once we have it ready,
Yeah.
we'll send it out.
Good. Credit cards.
Credit card policy, looks like we have a recommended credit card processor. Tom, I guess this will be no surprise to you, or was it Dan, or Dan, our IT person who helped?
Must be IT.
IT,
I think it was Daniel.
IT.
Not me.
And there is a recommended credit card processor used by 60% of libraries that work within the system. The pricing, there's a rate per transaction which is 2.49% per transaction, plus a 10-cent fee per transaction, 10 cents per authorization, and then an annual fee of $75 and a $100 one-time setup fee. I think though, but I feel like initially when Tom, and the library can set their own minimum charges, so we might want to think about that as we consider the 2.5% and the 10 cent and the 10 cent. But I thought big picture, you were an advocate of this, of the credit card, just because it would, your colleagues had, in neighboring libraries had reported an increase in payment of fines.
Absolutely.
So there is like a tension that we sort of have to reach with this.
Right. And also, it was extremely well regarded by the population, by the community, where, people don't always carry cash. When I did my poll, our poll regarding how other libraries manage this, quite frankly, many libraries did have a minimum charge usage, but many libraries also did not penalize someone using the credit card by charging them over and above. But,
Okay.
And I personally think that if we don't have those extra fees, I think it would make it more popular. And it seems to have been well regarded in other communities that have taken that path.
Can you clarify what you mean by extra fees?
Saying that if,
We would absorb those
we
fees.
will
Okay.
absorb the fees.
Got
as
it, not
opposed to
charging them
it back.
the minimum,
But what if they only owe it?
like $1?
Well, Beth, I think what we're saying is we should establish a threshold. If you owe $1 or $3 or $5, you can't use a credit card, but maybe if you owe $10 or more, you can.
And we don't want them to pay those fees.
No, we do. That's why we're allowing them to use a credit card to pay them.
She means the
No, but we're paying.
2.49%.
Right, oh, the fees,
The
fees
transaction
relative
fees.
to the transaction. Yes, I think we should. What my research has demonstrated, shown that most libraries are taking care of those fees. They're fairly minimal, and it's really made the library a popular player where they're able to obtain fees of late fees, et cetera, lost and paid material that they otherwise couldn't. People
Like
are willing
collections
to
might
use.
actually go up.
Right.
Maybe
Yeah.
that offsets this
Mhm.
process.
Yeah.
That's the hope.
That's what we're hoping for.
I would not want to put a minimum for any credit card transactions. I mean, the reality is, I think probably, okay, fine, you may swipe for probably $1, but it's very unlikely that somebody will probably swipe for
I don't know that that's entirely
I'm
true.
always guilty of not having cash.
No, I know,
Okay.
but even if it is, I think at least we're getting our material. At
Right.
least I just know establishments like bodegas and stuff that would just be like, $3 and minimum's fine. It's fine. Swipe. I'm more inclined to shop there more than saying,
You don't have to worry about
yeah.
bringing
Right.
cash.
I wouldn't want to put a minimum
So if somebody had a fine for $1, they could charge and pay for it?
if they don't have cash. I mean, like.
That's what I'm trying to,
The library, what is it,
2.49% and then 10 cents per approval and 10 cents for, so it's like,
So it would be
20 cents plus 2
55 cents to the library and 45 cents to the.
if it was $1.
If it was a $1, right, so that's what we're looking at, but it's the 55 cents that we might not.
So when you go to
It's a little
park,
bit- I think
you go to
it's more
park,
than that,
they
though.
charge
charge
you
you.
a processing fee.
Right.
I mean, I feel like nothing we decide is like permanent, right? So we can
You're
either set the
absolutely
minimum
right. That's a
threshold
good
and
point.
change it, or we can go just
Absolutely.
pay and see like in a year, like
Yep.
maybe Jean reports, actually look how much more we've collected. So,
So we
you know, I
don't
think
have
we
a
could,
minimum.
what is awkward is seeing the kiosk and not being, so I feel bad when I come in and you see people with the key and you can't use, so I feel like we should just,
Right.
I
We
would
should
strongly urge
decide.
us to vote to move forward and just,
I
as
agree.
everything else,
Right.
keep an eye on the books.
Agreed.
right, and you're right.
But we're moving forward with
With using the-
using the
Credit card, no
No minimum.
minimum, and we can assess the impact, and if there are indeed a lot of $1 charges and we feel like
I
we're
will be in
losing,
favor of that.
Okay.
we can change it. We can always just message
Because it's
around
not
it.
set in stone. It
Right.
is an ongoing
It's
conversation.
new for everyone, and
Right.
like, it sounds like y'all are still dealing with some tech issues anyway, so I don't
Right.
wanna add another consideration in
God
terms
knows
of the.
We don't want that.
When I use my phone to park in New Rochelle, it charges me a fee instead of using
Yeah.
the meter. So if I'm too lazy to go to the meter and drop $2, it charges me $2.35. Why can't that be added on to
Oh.
the fee? That's what I was asking.
Make the patron cover it, that there's
I'm
a
just
surcharge for the
throwing it out.
convenience, right, called a convenience charge is really.
Is that where
The
you would-
conveniences mean not standing in the rain. The convenience is me taking my phone and doing it from my desk.
Mhm.
But they're getting me for 35 cents every 2 hours on top of my 2
So am I
hour
hearing, I
charge.
think Chuck hasn't said much, but were you thinking along this
No,
vein?
that's, I mean, that's you often see for very small transactions, there's a fee because of what you just articulated, the processing costs. I mean, it's not an
I think
uncommon
it's, yeah,
practice.
very common.
For larger transactions, it's not common, right? And so, I mean, I think if we were to do it without any sort of minimum or charging of the processing fee, I think we need to watch it pretty closely because I don't know if we know the breakout, like what are common, are they usually like $1 or less, or are they usually like $5 or $10?
That's a good point.
It really- it
Because you have all
varies.
these tiny transactions and you're being
You're giving away
charged
40
20
cents, 45
So the
cents each,
Yeah,
suggestion
like-
would be to have a standard processing fee.
as opposed to,
Like, for example, $10, $5.
minimum
whatever.
charge.
The processing fee would be whatever, an additional dollar to whatever transaction you have.
do you have a sense from your peers
Is
how
that what
people
you're
handle?
saying?
I think
Similar to the parking app?
I wouldn't want to charge anything more than what it like costs us and
Oh, no, yeah.
not like a money making exercise, but or else set a minimum threshold because I think that's why they do it, right? Because it's the charges are what they are.
Yeah, most county libraries bear the transaction fee costs.
Do they
And-
set a minimum though? Did you say that?
Some do and some don't, to be honest with you. That's more common, that there are a number of libraries say it's just not worth it for us to accept a
Yeah.
credit card payment of $1. But most libraries, and I think the one library that actually levies a fee, I believe it's Terrytown Warner Library, and it's not their decision, it's the decision of the municipality that insisted.
I mean, is there a way where we could do a service charge for anything below a minimum of $5? You know, at the point at which it seems like it wouldn't be worth it, we could add a convenience charge.
I guess I feel like we need to be clear, and 'cause I'm just anxious
like,
about the tech. I'm
understand,
anxious
right.
about the advertising and the public sort of piece of it. So like, as much as we want to use credit card, if we're not there, if we're worried, what information do we need to get back so that and look, I have no skin in this game. I won't be at the next meeting, but like, so that the board can vote with
I
confidence.
guess my point was I don't even we have this information, but like if we come to the conclusion that like 80% of the fines that people are paying are like $1 or less, and then we're getting charged a people start, you know,
We
let's say
lose
people,
money.
I think people will, a lot of people I think will use credit cards
Right.
because it's just more commonplace now. And so if you come to the conclusion that they're all very small dollar, most of them are small dollar transactions, it will meaningfully eat into your revenue, which maybe that's fine.
But there's
it's
also,
just-
I mean, there's different models we could look at, like when you're giving to like a crowdsource funding, and they say, would you like to cover the cost of your, I mean, there's like a choice. I forget what
Yeah,
the
yeah,
way,
yeah.
you know what I'm talking about? Like you can,
Yeah.
you can,
Yeah, when you give to a charity, they ask you like, would you like to?
Do you want to cover our processing fee or our transaction
Yeah.
fee? or
right,
cost?
so usually it's the host that decides to
I don't think our
cover
patrons-
the cost or puts that on to the patrons, and I think we need to understand what kind of impact it will have.
Do we know, the way that, the data that we have on fines, do we know like what the average fine is?
You know, I'm not, to be honest with you, Chuck, I don't believe we do.
Okay.
I don't even have the anecdotal. I mean, that's
Yeah.
a really good question.
Some have been, some are often negotiated as well, so even
Yeah.
the price that's sort of listed as owed,
Yeah.
I believe our librarians have the discretion to negotiate if
Yeah.
someone says they don't have that,
They
you know?
absolutely do.
And so it's a tricky metric to capture.
It is difficult because our staff has been given the power to negotiate down. Usually not when it relates to material that's actually been lost, but when it comes to fines, we very often will strike a deal because the goal is not to collect a lot of money, but to allow people to continue to use the library for themselves and their families. But my experience is that it varies. It can be as little as $1, or it could be $5, $10, $20, and certainly when lost material occurs, it can be even more sizable.
My only thought would be that, like, if we make the decision to go with sort of no minimum, no convenience charge or whatever on small dollar transactions, if we try to go the other way, that's not gonna work.
Right.
So, Like-
Eugenia's been.
I would rather
we
start-
can't add something later, so, because that'll be like, people, I think, would revolt if we did that. So
I would start
that's not-
with
that's
a,
not, like, I'm
right.
not saying we should do that, but I'm just saying that's the one, that's the, I think
No,
something
you
we should
have
keep
to-
in
that's
mind.
what
It
he-
also
it's better
might
to
be,
go-
I don't know if I'm saying it right, discriminatory if you say we're gonna charge you if you're only $1 late versus $10 late. So it
Yeah,
might be
it's kind of
smarter
reverse
to
logic.
Right.
Kind of
absorb
screwed up
those
logic.
fees, but just like when you go into a deli or someplace, if you're using a card, the minimum is X.
That's amazing to
Because
know.
just to do the numbers again on even $10, 2.5%, that's 25 cents, right?
That's
25
cents.
cents plus 10%, that's only 45 cents on the $10. That's not so bad. On $1, that's 2.5 cents plus
right.
10%. So you.
Sorry,
so
I did the math. I added
I
another.
don't feel like absorb it, but have a minimum.
Right.
If you don't have cash, I mean, if you don't have cash, using a card, you can't use a card on like less than $10. That might be the smartest thing.
Can people,
I don't know.
can you check
It's a
out,
good proposal.
I haven't incurred a lot of fines, I haven't incurred some, but if you have outstanding fines, can you check out new books?
No, there's
no.
there's a threshold number.
I have.
If a patron owes over, I believe it's $25.
$25.
Okay, that's pretty high.
Yeah, it is high. You are not allowed, you are blocked. Not just our library, but every library in the county.
Because I just, the other thing to think about is people, if you put a minimum in place and they want to use a credit card, they just wait till the fees get up. They might wait to pay until the fees get up.
Well, quite frankly, that
credit
happens
card
in the
level.
current environment
Which is
too.
probably fine, I
Yeah.
don't know.
I mean, my understanding is the experience of patrons in other communities are just so thrilled that credit cards, plastic is now available, because it's certainly available in almost every other kind of financial transaction in their
I think we have
in their
to, I
life.
think we have to take credit cards.
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah.
That makes sense.
So what is could we approve this with a minimum
Yeah,
to
let's
start off with?
approve minimum.
And we can change it. I think Chuck
Yeah.
is right. We can get easier, but if we get
Yeah.
but if we start out easy, it's going to be hard to make it more restrictive.
So you're thinking start out at
Like
10 or start at 5?
I would say 3 or 5.
5.
Dan, what
I'd
would
say
make you
5 is a
comfortable? I
good-
know you were anxious. I know.
Well, you can agree to disagree.
You can.
I would be comfortable in not putting a minimum, but putting a convenience fee, similar to the parking mobile app. Even for 50 cents, you're gonna get charged was it 36,
35 cents.
35 cents flat out, regardless, right?
They get, well, on $2, it's 35.
Yeah.
I don't.
So-
35 on everyone, and
So I would be comfortable just to charging a convenience fee regardless of the transaction. $1, $10, $20, $80.
So that you're
whatever.
charging them the cost of the business, of the transaction,
Of
as
the
opposed
transaction,
to
yeah.
setting a minimum.
I would prefer that because it's so
But is it a
Thomas.
flat number?
So, right,
It
because
varies depending on. because
is it the
Well,
2.49% and, or just the 20 cents?
Well, I think that
A little more than 20.
Right.
I think we can put it a little bit more than the 20 cents, and I think it'll be okay for us to take a little loss rather than a big loss, but at least we're
So
covering
25 cents is what you're proposing? I'm good with that. What do you think?
Why not 35? Like the parking.
35, 45.
I think honestly, like, they're sort of a little more economical than the parking that everybody.
Right, we want to be a better deal.
I'd be like
Let's be a
random
better deal.
27 cents.
I know, but I'm still undecided, so I want us to win.
At the same time, happy that they're paying,
Right.
right? So.
But to acknowledge that there is a cost, right, and that we have to be cognizant of that. So 25 cents?
Yeah.
Do we feel good? So would the motion
Going
be?
once, going twice. 25.
Go ahead.
Sure.
So then you're actually punishing the smaller, or it seems like you're punishing the smaller amount because you're not going to pay the same fee as some of the other larger amounts of taxes. Encouraging people
To wait.
Oh, so accrue
You
the,
might be.
accrue the fine? And if you think of it in a percentage, I mean, $1.25, I wouldn't try to go to $4 to make the 25 cents less of a burden. I guess I'm trying to understand why it would make somebody wait.
one fee for no matter
Mhm.
what the amount is, so that would potentially encourage people to wait because they're not going to pay more.
For a quarter? I mean,
But then you would still pay, if you wait, so if I owe $1
gumbo.
and I'm gonna pay $1.25, if I paid $2.25, I would still be paying $1 more. I guess I
You
hear,
say people wait now.
They do.
Yeah,
with
Why
cash.
why
So-
not give it a trial period of 6 months?
that's right.
Yeah.
Let's just try it.
convenience fee- Charge a convenience
Yeah.
rate for everybody. There's some unfairness on the lower side, but give it 6 months until the end of June, and then revisit the issue and see how it
We're
goes.
just adding another way to pay.
It's an arbitrary
right?
thing.
You could still pay the
You can
dollar.
still pay the dollar.
cash or
right? If
quarters.
you'd rather save a quarter than pay your dollar
Yes, it's
and,
optional.
Right.
right?
Yeah,
It's not the only way. We're still
That's the
allowing
way.
cash collection.
I would feel
yes.
comfortable with the convenience fee regardless, $1, $25,
Yeah.
Right.
as opposed to a minimum.
Let's do it.
Okay.
Because okay, so if you have a book and you don't want to return it
Right.
because you don't have cash versus I'd rather just wait till when I get to $10
And
and
then
return
pay.
the book. Either or, you're
Right.
gonna
If I owed $1
you're
on
gonna
the
pay $10 for
right.
the book or hold a book because you don't have cash.
I'm more frustrated if I owe $1 and the minimum is $5 and I can't pay it till I come back, and then by the time I come back I owe $3 because that's the time I remember to have the cash to go. You know what I mean? Like that's sort
And
of how I'm
convenience
thinking
is
of it
the
as well.
convenience regardless of the amount of money that you're paying.
Mhm.
And when I park for half an hour and I pay 35 cents, or I park all day and I pay $10, I'm still happy to
35
have that
cents.
convenience. The convenience is worth
You
25,
can still pay the
35.
cash.
Right, and it's, right, I could go up to the machine, but the convenience is what it is. It's a value in that moment, no matter how long I'm parking for.
And separate from the value, it's a real cost,
It's
and I
a
think
real
that's
cost, right.
what our former president is saying. So I think all of these new things come with a cost and a consequence, right? There's always something to analyze. I think we certainly are behind by not accepting credit cards at all. And I would hate, because we're also then, and I want to say this, packaging what everything policy is talking about, we're talking about the elimination of children fees and then absorbing another process. This is me
Right.
talking, having said, let's
That's
just
right.
go, and then absorbing a new process that will have a cost. Like I think we're trying to balance it in a way.
Right.
And 6 months, 3 months, 4 months.
Well,
Let's try it.
here's a perfect analysis, and in speaking with the staff,
Perfect analysis.
is there's also and it'll be interesting to see how the parking. I know in the city, when we met with the city, they were talking about, they know that the younger generation uses the mobile app. That the older generation will not download the parking app and will use the kiosk. Similar to here, many of the clerks in the front said that the older generation are not using the self checkout. And if they
Oh.
do, they're like, you know what, I'm going here to the clerk over
I see what you're
here,
saying.
you know? So I think that let's just see how it goes,
Yeah.
6 months. Let's see what the process is, where we're at. And
Credit cards only available at the kiosks, or does the clerk have the ability to swipe?
I think we will ultimately allow a clerk to have access to it, and also online too, to pay your fines online.
Which you used to be able, we need to see how the new system works.
Yeah.
I've definitely paid fines online.
Yeah, I think that could be a tremendous boon, so.
So the proposal is to, for a 6-month period, accept all major credit cards with a
Do the last
25
motion.
cent,
Come on, girl.
Yeah,
Do
yeah.
the last
a
motion.
25 cents convenience fee, right?
Yes.
No
Yes.
minimum for
No
the
minimum.
6-month trial
No
For
minimum.
period,
any transaction.
for any transactions.
Right.
That is the motion.
I will.
Second.
Thank you, Chuck.
Okay.
Nice one, out.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Any abstentions? The motion passes. We're accepting credit cards. We are in business.
Boom.
Credit card
We should
business.
open a Venmo and Cash App.
Venmo.
Venmo, you get no fees.
That's
No
right.
fees, right.
That's interesting.
Oh.
Okay, we still have a whole
Yeah.
other committee to report on, folks. So before we turn into pumpkins, or maybe I'm speaking for myself, let's do the special projects committee. Tom, do you want to talk about the Memorial Highway
Sure.
Courtyard project?
The major element is that the board, of course, had agreed to underwrite the fees for the surveyor who will work on the courtyard, so that once that work is done and is presented to the foundation can use that information in order to flesh out the costs of this proposed project. So we had two prices, and we went with the lower of the two, who was a very well-regarded firm, and they have been commissioned to go forward. I have not heard from them yet. I did reach out to them. I didn't get a response. But according to the contract, we should have something in hand by the end of December. And we will then forward that along to the foundation. The foundation's landscape architect will integrate that information and therefore come up with a more robust proposal in terms of a budget for this project. So that's the only movement that I'm aware of.
Great. Broadcast equipment project.
Okay, also, you notice that Nikki Fudge is not down with the masses. That includes all of us. She's waving very happily upstairs in her glass house. And so the project is complete. We did finish it. The city approved, and Nikki has been trained along with other people. And so we're waiting for the city to acknowledge the invoice from the vendor, which is approximately $28,000. And so we will be able to accomplish in the very near future live streaming too as well.
And I
So-
believe 38 different languages or something?
Yep,
That's
lots and
That's
lots.
it.
And we were given the advice that we should start thinking about a future budget requests. The city is in contract negotiations with the cable providers, and I guess it's sort of like, go for it. What do we need? What do we
great.
think we'll need in the next few years? We're working on that document, and we'll share it with the city with the idea that we might get it all. Maybe we will get nothing, or maybe something
great.
in the middle.
Excellent.
I would just like to note that Yadira started this project many, many moons ago, and I think we were the only. I don't think the rest of the rest of the board was different,
Actually.
and Tom, and so congratulations.
Thank you. It's full circle.
Very good. What a way to go.
You're welcome. No.
Painful justice.
Drop the mic. Drop the mic.
Drop the mic. Excellent. Good. Okay, last but not least, needs assessment. We're reaching out to Public Works partners, hoping that we can have a meeting in the new year and just make sure that they are, I've reached out, waiting to hear back and hope that they're interested still. So
Were there two responses?
there were two responses. One was Perch Advisors, the other is Public Works Partners, and we're going to move forward. So stay tuned on that.
if I could for 30 seconds, I just did, since it is my last meeting, just say thank you to all of the colleagues on the, I'm a crier, so if I cry, it's like, it's where I go. I just, being on this board and working to advocate for our library has really just been such a tremendous point of pride for me. This is such an easy institution to love and represent. But more importantly, the friendships and really just how much I learned and grew as a person, the relationships I was able to develop with board members, many of whom I don't know if I would have gotten to know otherwise, the staff who I've really just grown to love and appreciate and have been friendly faces in the community. Again, that I don't know if I would have gotten to know as well the other staff members here at the library, and of course our public, with whom I've learned a lot. And so just really thank you so much. It's a role that I really hold dear to my heart, and while I am excited about City Council, I actually think I really will miss this group and what I've learned from you guys. So thank you very much.
You will be missed, but you're not going far. So. Thank you. Public discussion. We have Terry. He went already.
Yes.
We have Marjorie Sachs.
We have a mic? Yeah.
Tom, you're gonna email this, right?
Absolutely.
So we too want to just appreciate Yadira, and Chuck, you stole our thunder a little bit in terms of the just, you know. No, we very much remember, because this was not public, but well, there was barely public participation, but we really did ask for this, and you really followed up on that and stuck with it all these years. So we appreciate that, as well as things that you did in terms of encouraging more personnel with the budget, that you really had your voice with this and really brought wonderful things. So always having interesting ideas. So we'll miss you. We appreciate your service and look forward to you being on the city council and still being very involved. I also just want to say that we're so taken with the grants that you've received at this library to hear, the construction grants and just everything that's done. When you come in now, the reception area is just, it's absolutely lovely. It's really welcoming. And we always love the book Christmas tree as well. So just really appreciate all of that. And also, Tom, following up with this, the food program, that sounds amazing. And if we can be helpful to you in that in any way, we'd like to do that. And on that note, also just really appreciate the advocacy you're doing with the city and with the developers. I just think that's hugely important as all this development is going on. And we want to offer our support if there are ways that you feel, we have our own sense of how we can be involved, but if there are specific ways that we could support you and your advocacy as other developments happen, and especially with the municipal parking lots, please be in touch. You know how to get in touch with us, and please do that, because we really do want to partner with you with that. And I think that's it.
Thank you. Thanks very much. Okay, any other comments? If not, then we will call this meeting adjourned. Can I have a second?
Me.
Many people? Okay, all in favor?
Bags in your arms.
Aye. Any opposed? No. Okay, the meeting is adjourned.